I was wiping down my kitchen counter, the kind of lazy Thursday afternoon in Oak Ridge, Wyoming, where the only plan was to grill some burgers, when my son, Jake, stomped in, dripping wet. Saying Diane Miller, our HOA president, had slapped a padlock on our backyard pool gate, claiming it was a public hazard. By the time I got outside, I found my pool, my private, city-approved oasis, sealed shut, and then, to top it off, Diane called 911, screaming about a trapped kid, spinning a crisis out of thin air. As I stood there, bolt cutters in hand, staring at her smug face across the cul-de-sac, I felt a fire ignite, not just because I'm the county fire chief, but because this was my home, my kid, my rules. And Diane was about to learn she'd picked the wrong guy to mess with. My name's Matt Carson, 45, a fire chief who spends my days enforcing safety codes, teaching crews to save lives. And coming home to Jake, my 16-year-old, who thinks he's too cool for curfews. This house, with its big yard and in-ground pool, is our sanctuary, bought 3 years ago after my wife passed. A place to rebuild and make memories. I put that pool in myself, permits filed, safety features top-notch, even got a city nod for going above code. Jake's friends swim there all summer, no charge. Just a sign-in sheet and a don't be dumb rule. It's outside the Oak Ridge HOA's reach, a fact I double-checked when we moved in. But Diane, with her yoga pants and her yappy terrier, Sparky, didn't care about deeds or laws. To her, every blade of grass was her kingdom, and my pool was a rebellion she couldn't stand. Her 911 stunt wasn't just meddling, it was a power grab, and I was done playing nice. The trouble kicked off a week earlier, when Jake told me Diane had been sniffing around, complaining the pool was too accessible. I'd shrugged it off. She was always whining about mailbox colors or unapproved shrubs. But that Thursday, when Jake said she'd locked the gate while he and his buddies were mid-cannonball, I saw red. I marched out, found a cheap padlock dangling like a taunt, and clipped it off with cutters, letting the boys back in. That's when I noticed the pool lights weren't working, no hum from the pump, no glow from the motion sensors. I checked the breaker, swapped fuses, ran my multimeter. Nothing. The wiring fed through a junction box by the fence, right where it met the HOA's park. I popped it open and froze, clean cuts on the cables, deliberate, not frayed. This wasn't a glitch. It was sabotage, and Diane's fingerprints were all over it. I knocked on her door that evening, keeping my cool, even brought a soda to seem neighborly. She answered in a leopard print tracksuit, Sparky snarling at my boots. Diane, I said, someone locked my gate today and cut my pool's wiring. Know anything about that? Her eyes flicked away, then back, her smile tight. Why would I? I'm not your groundskeeper. I leaned in. You told my kid he was breaking laws, padlocked my property, and now my safety system's dead. That's tampering, Diane, and it's illegal. She crossed her arms, chin high. Your pool's a danger, Matt. Open water features need HOA oversight. I'm protecting us. I stared, incredulous. It's private, exempt from your rules. And you know it. Stop this, or we've got a problem. She smirked. You're the problem, locking out the community. That's selfish. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. But my gut churned. This was only the start. 2 hours later, sirens wailed, police, fire, EMS, roaring into our cul-de-sac like it was a war zone. I stepped out, still on a call with my deputy, and saw Diane flailing like a bad actor, yelling, there's a kid in danger. He's locked the pool. Cops and medics piled out, confused, as I stood there in my fire chief jacket. Officer Dan, who I'd trained with, squinted. Matt, you called this in. Diane jumped in, voice shrill. No, I did. He's got kids trapped behind an electric fence. I didn't flinch. Just pulled up my phone's live pool cam. Jake lounging with a soda, headphones on, no crisis in sight. No fence, no trap, I said, handing Dan the phone. Just my private pool. Secured per state code. I turned to Diane, voice low. I'm the fire chief, Diane. I wrote those codes. You just wasted emergency resources. Her face went tomato red. Dan sighed. Ma'am, 911's not for disputes. You're getting a warning. The crews left, shaking their heads, and Diane slunk away, but I knew she wasn't done. People like her don't quit when they're caught. They doubled down. Next morning, a letter was taped to my mailbox, HOA letterhead, 3 fonts, accusing me of obstructing communal water access and aggressive landscaping with my lemon tree. I laughed, but it stung. My property was outside HOA bounds, zoned as old farmland before the subdivision sprouted. Diane didn't care about facts, she wanted control. And my pool, a symbol of freedom she couldn't touch, drove her nuts. I called my deputy, Tara, a fire investigator with a knack for cutting through nonsense. She's citing you for a tree? Tara snorted. What's next? Your grass is too green. I sighed. She cut my wiring. Tara, it's not just petty, it's dangerous. Tara's voice hardened. That's sabotage. Want a tampering report? I paused. Not yet. Let's check the site first. Tara showed up that afternoon, toolkit in hand, munching pretzels. We traced the wiring, clean slices, surgical. Someone who knew enough to hit the safety systems without tripping the main breaker. This is targeted, Tara said, snapping photos. Classic HOA move. Break it. Blame you. Make you beg for their rules. We patched the lines, but the sensors needed a full relay swap, costing me $400 in 2 days. That night, I caught a shadow by my fence, not Diane, but her friend, Gloria, setting up a cheap Wi-Fi camera, angled at my pool. I flipped on the floodlights, and she bolted, tripping over her own tripod. Diane was spying now, building a case to paint me as the bad guy. I didn't confront her. I got creative. I installed a prototype pool dome from a safety pilot I'd consulted on. A retractable cover with sensors that locked when in use, looking like a sci-fi bubble. It was code-compliant, life-saving, and, to Diane, a personal insult. Within an hour, she was on my lawn. Screeching, "You've built a fortress. What if kids suffocate?" I watered my roses, calm. It's a hydrodome, Diane. Prevents drowning, filters UV. I helped design it. Her jaw twitched. That's a conflict of interest. I grinned. No, that's my job. Fire chief, remember? She stormed off, muttering about emergency meetings, but I saw fear in her eyes. She was losing ground. The next day, a dozen HOA complaints hit my door. My dome was hoarding water, my tree, hostile. One demanded a key to my pool, like it was a public park. Tara texted, "Make Emskin their eyeballs to swim." I laughed, but the stakes were rising. Diane wasn't just after my pool. She wanted to break me, to prove her rules trumped my rights. That night, I checked my cameras and found a 15-minute blackout at 3:22 a.m., right at the dome's control box. Other angles were fine. Someone had targeted the feed. My gut said Diane was planning something bigger, and I needed to be ready. The showdown came at the HOA's emergency safety hearing. The clubhouse was packed, neighbors whispering. Muffins untouched. Diane, in a coral blazer, waved a stack of papers, accusing me of endangering the community with my rogue tech. I walked in, full uniform, badge gleaming, carrying a folder thick with evidence. Diane's smirk vanished. "Didn't expect you in," she stammered. I nodded. "I'm here as the homeowner and the fire chief. Let's talk safety." I laid it out. Zoning maps showing my land's exemption, my dome state certification, photos of the cut wires, and Gloria's camera, its feed logged with timestamps like "Chief leaves at 7:12. Tara joined via video, voice sharp. "We're investigating tampering and illegal surveillance. This is a federal matter." The room gasped. Diane sputtered. "That's not me." Gloria acted alone. I showed the 911 call log, her voice clear. "He's locked kids in." Neighbors shifted, angry. Maria, a mom from down the street, stood. "My son swims there safely." "You lied to cops." Tom, a retiree, added, "You cut his power?" "That's reckless." Diane's ally shrank. Brent, her bored crony, mumbled, "We didn't know." I cut in. "You did. Here's your email, Brent." Approving Karen's inspection of my box. Diane bolted, her heels clicking, the room buzzing with outrage. After the meeting, Diane went nuclear, late mail, canceled lawn service. Even a tow truck for my work SUV, all traced to her. Then the outages spread. Maria's sprinklers died, Tom's garage glitched, always around 2 a.m. I set up a spectrum analyzer, catching a signal jammer spiking at 1:54 a.m., scrambling our devices. Diane's flyers followed, blaming my dome for grid interference. I baited her, adding a silent tamper alarm to the dome. At 2:03 a.m., it tripped, floodlights blazed, a siren wailed, and Brent, caught with a jammer and screwdriver, sprinted away. My night vision cam got him clear. I confronted him at his office, folder in hand. 2 hours, Brent, or its charges, tampering, surveillance, FCC violations. He caved, spilling everything. Diane's fake HOA documents, her orders to scare me. She said you were dodging codes, he whined. I left him with a copy of the footage and a warning. Tell Diane I'm done playing. The jammer stopped. The outages vanished. State investigators raided the HOA office, finding Diane's rooftop jammer. Brent flipped, exposing her forged flyers. The board fined the HOA, ousted Diane in a landslide vote. And her name hit every safety office's watch list. Her Maple Hills HOA bid? Dead, after I slipped their board my evidence. My pool stayed locked when needed, open for Jake's friends. The dome gliding like a dream. Neighbors apologized. Gloria sent cookies. Maria invited us for tacos. I hosted a safety day by the pool, CPR demos, fire drills. Sliders for all, and the crowd loved it. Diane watched from her window, silent, defeated. Weeks later, her house went up for sale, no sign, just a desperate listing. One night, a moving van came. Diane loaded it alone, Sparky yipping, and drove off, sunglasses hiding her face. The cul-de-sac exhaled, kids back in the pool, laughter replacing sirens. I added alley lights, consulted on HOA's safety rules, and kept my cameras rolling. But last week, an email hit my work inbox, anonymous, accusing me of abusing aquatic tech. Sent from a VPN, but tagged with Diane's initials. She's out there, plotting, and I'm ready, badge on, evidence saved, Jake's cannonballs echoing. So, where are you watching from? Ever had a Diane lock up your life, thinking she runs the show? Drop your story below. Let's talk about drawing lines, fighting smart, and whether a pool can spark a revolution. Because I'm still here, and I know you are too.